Punisher #1, a lot of people ended up, talking about this play where at one point they had kind of a guessing game. Oh my God, who is going to be this new Punisher? And they ended up having like a shadowy figure, almost like it was a character you had to unlock in a fighting game. And people were guessing. And then so they announced it. It's Joe Garrison, ex-SHIELD agent. Yeah, everybody. Who? Like, what? Like, what's going on? And then they explained it and thought, well, that was a little bit of a fun game that you couldn't play along with. And when you get into this issue, kind of continues with that because this issue stinks. It's not very good. Just give us Frank Castle, please. My big problem is if you're not going to have Frank Castle and you introduce a new Punisher, give me something different so that I can say, okay, well, I kind of like Frank, but I could dig this guy. Don't redo Frank Castle with a new guy.
That's why I wanted to read it.
I even thought at one point there was going to be a little twist that I'll even tell you what it is now, that I thought that all of what was going on, we thought it was going one way. But this guy is so out of his mind that he was recreating the origin of Frank himself to become that. But it's not that. That might be a little interesting. This is not good. It's cliche. It is just boring. But it's written by David Pepose, and
that's why.
And I've read a couple things. I know people like that Savage Avengers meme. You did not. And the Moon Knight City of the Dead is just awful. That's a bad series. Me and Gabe will finish that up next issue. I think is the last issue. Not very good. Art by Dave Wachter.
I do like Dave Wachter. I like Dave Wachter. He did pretty good on Planet of the Apes.
You go into this. Oh, man, it's already an uphill battle. You're going to have somebody not Frank being the Punisher. And the play throughout this bunch of years now is that you can't have Frank Castle because bad people in the mind of Marvel. I'm not going to make any judgments here, but they decided bad people have commandeered the Punisher symbol. We can't have the Punisher going out and killing people. Also, the killing, it's a little over the top, all that. So I'm wondering, okay, what is this guy going to do? What is Joe Garrison going to do? And when he goes in, he's just blasting. He is a rootin' shooting machine.
He just started blasting.
He is just blasting in this. And so when you get to that, I'm like, all right, well, I kind of want Frank Castle then. Hey, give me Frank. I know that how that went with all the stuff tied in with Daredevil, Jason Aaron stuff. I don't care. I'm reading this and I just want Frank Castle. So you start off and you end up where a building has been blown up. You see Garrison on the deal. And there's a couple detectives, a bunch of people milling about. And again, I don't know who these characters are. I want the Punisher. And you get in here and what's happening? The book is punishing me. I have to go through this. I'm going to get angry about this because I got so bored with it. But you go in and these detectives, hey there, Detective Ward. How are things going? Pretty good. How are you? Not bad myself. Let's walk into the house. I'm like, why are we wasting any bit of time? And then you go in and there's a bunch of people. There's obviously people who are dead. They're trying to figure this out. The one guy says, oh man, looks like somebody ended up blowing up the building. Hey, don't you jump to conclusions, pal. I got Detective Linus here. No assumption. And he's like, let me look. Looks like somebody blown up the building. This whole building is blown up. There's a wall that's standing there like, maybe something's in the wall. They look, an unexploded bomb. Didn't you think that was going to now explode and these guys are dead? Why introduce this to do nothing with it? They end up having this bomb and they go, get the bomb squad. The end. What? And then even that, you said, no assumptions. They end up digging up a body of the wife, the two kids, but they can't find the body of the husband. So like, he must have done it. It's Joe Garrison, who just happens to be the new Punisher.
Dun, dun, dun.
In the meantime, while that's going on, Joe, he already knows Punisher's going to go off, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to punish the guy who blew the building up and killed his family. We're introduced to it so quick. There's no connection to Joe Garrison, his family, these detectives, no at all. So when you get to it and you find out, okay, I'm doing the math. Wife dead, a girl and a boy dead. Oh, it's just Frank Castle Punisher done again, but I have no connection. So you end up at the Black Dragon Bar. You start with the over-narration of this Joe Garrison. One thing he likes to do is chit-chat of the mind. He's just boring. He gives you the scene, but he kind of sometimes oversteps the art at points, and it's just cliche action movie. bang, bang, I'm going to get you. Even has some crazy, catchphrases or one-liners, but they don't play out.
Yeah, it's stupid shit. Like, just like there's one where it's like, we're going to make you eat those words, Punisher. And he's like, eat this, starts shooting the gun. And it's like.
So this bar, you have this guy. And again, we don't know that this is the guy who blew up the deal, but you kind of can figure it out as it goes. But you have this play of, you see a hand pull out one power cord out of the wall socket. Everything in the bar seems to go off. Like, everything is there.
The entire lights, everything. Like, just
this is
everything.
Like the classic, you have 800 things plugged into one strip, and this guy, he pulls the strip. Oh, no, it's dark. And now we're just going to get stupid trash talk. At one point, they're like, what are you going to do? Say, we got 8 people, 8 against 1. He's like, you mean you have 8 for now? All right. Then he starts blasting. And when you're doing that, you even cut then a bit to the detectives, just to ruin the pacing a little more. And so with that, the Sokovian, he grabs the suitcase and runs off as he's getting shot. He gets away. In the meantime, these guys with the devil mask, they just start attacking Joe, and he's blocking them with his armor. He has his chest. Now, his chest plate, everybody's seen it probably by now. It looks like the Punisher logo, but it looks like it's lit.
Yeah, it glows. Because that was supposed to be the visual when he came in the door after he turned off all the lights or whatever. It was just like a glowing skull.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like the Punisher logo, just a different version of it. And I said lit. I don't mean like how the kids say it down at the roller skating rink. You end up where...
It is not lit, Jim. It is not.
He just fights through. He ends up breaking a guy's sword and runs him through. And then the big line, because there's this big dude. And they're in a bar. So they're getting all this alcohol on him and whatever. And the guy says, oh, I wield the power of man's darkest shadows. And then you have this joke here. Maybe, but you're still soaked in rum. And I'm the one with the lighter. I'm like, really? So here is the trash talk. This is the action movie talk here that David Popos thinks is pretty cool. It's not, because this is far from a Sylvester Stallone saying, you're the disease and I'm the cure. See, that's cool. This is just mentioning, hey, by the way, you just got soaked in rum and I happen to have a lighter. I mean, he's actually just saying the actual thing going on. No metaphor, no cleverness. And it really does give you the microcosm of this book. This Punisher #1 is trying to be an 80s, 90s action movie, but it's direct to video. That's all this is. Frank Castle, that's a blockbuster. That's in the theater. This is direct to video nonsense that you avoid. Like, this is what I'm reading. Please. Oh my goodness. And he sets them on fire. So again, very violent. And he just walks away from people burning. But you get that visual of what looks like the Punisher logo. So he goes back to this safe house, this Shield safe house. He says there's a bunch in New York. Okay. And he has this gadget gal, AAA. Don't know her. Don't know Punisher, Joe Garrison either. And they start having quips and they start having little one-liners with each other, but it doesn't play out well because we don't know the characters. There's no setup of, oh man, she always does that, or oh man, he's always joking about that. We don't know them. So at one point says, that's why they call me AAA. Oh, I thought that was because it was your
armor and analysis.
And then, no, aiding and abetting. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I thought it was like the car service. Like, oh, I'm here to help. Like, she's basically just the Micro. Punisher had Micro. This is Joe Garrison's Micro.
The same. And while they're doing that, they're watching the news. And so they're like, and you end up, oh man, you're pretty famous. And at first, the famous bit is because of his, looks like the Punisher's back. And you end up where Joe Garrison goes, oh man, they think I'm the Punisher because of my armor. I'm like, really? You didn't think that looked anything like the Punisher? And now
S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't hire him for his smarts.
The real story here is that the police are saying that he's the main suspect in the killing of his family. Again, I hate to say it, but I don't care because I don't know the family, and it's just too much of a generic version of Frank Castle.
We get one little flashback during the story.
You get that quick, oh man, I'm so glad. Put the life behind you, but the life never gets put behind you. We know that. So all in all with this, oh man, the Sokovian got away. Now, he wants to kill this guy because the guy blew up his family. He says that, man, I thought I was undercover. Nobody knew, but then this guy found out and blew up. We don't really know why.
At one point, he's like, oh, I also want it before I kill him, find out who hired him, because apparently he's like a hired bomber or whatever.
again, we don't really know. He doesn't wait. Joe says, it sucks. I don't know where he is. So then AAA goes, oh, I actually had already set up, without telling you already, by the way, that your bullets are tracer bullets. They're trackers. This is like after the fact writing, it seems. Like the idea, oh, crap. We got to do something, so we'll do that.
There was one little panel where they showed the suitcase get shot, but it's very
He wasn't shooting the case to track it because he had no idea.
He was just trying to shoot at the Sokovian.
And he goes off to follow the case, even though when they get to a spot, he goes in the subway and they can't track it. What tracker is this? It's lame. So you say it costs a lot. They didn't pay enough. But all this then leads, I mean, this book just has things happen. Because then the Sokovian who just bombed, and you think he probably got some money to bomb I don't even want to call him the Punisher if they would think he's that at this point, but ex-SHIELD agent Joe Garrison's house, kill his family. Now the guy's also running a side hustle where he's going to Mr. Hyde and selling mutant growth hormone. That's why he had the case. I'm like, what is this? What is this guy? Like a jack of all trades? I don't know this guy, so I'm just saying he's a jack off instead of a jack of all trades, master of whatever. Because he's there all of a sudden. Oh man, blew up that guy. I'm going to retire soon, but I got to sell this growth hormone. I'm surprised Barry Bonds wasn't down there getting it. That's for John Wayne. So you end up where even that you're going to play this game where, oh, Dr. Zabo, it's Mr. Hyde. We know it. Mr. Hyde's already Mr. Hyde, but here he is injecting himself with mutant growth hormone. He's got all this stuff going on. They're getting this from this Sokovian wall. Joe Garrison thinks of his family that we have no connection to. And then in the play of when the times get, slow, when people aren't talking, I often go back and think about that exploding building that happened 3 hours ago. So he goes and he goes down into the subway. And there's the deal. Hey, he went in the subway and we lost track where Punisher goes down. Joe Garrison goes down into the subway.
AAA hacks the
surveillance.
And then they see him go into one of those service tunnels. And then he goes down there. And then he just, he's walking. He hears the subway train going overhead. And he's like, it's weird. Some part of this wall over here to my right, the acoustics are different than the rest of the walls. That must mean there's a false wall.
That's the thing. There's no reason for this to be a false wall even. It looks like they're just in a side room. So he ends up like, so he puts an explosive, blows it up, and there's Mr. Hyde and his guns.
He's like, you've saved us the trouble of finding you, Mr. Punisher, sir.
You were just down there with your hormones. So he ends up then injecting himself, becomes Mr. Hyde. He's going to attack, but instead of it doing anything, Joe Garrison ends up grabbing that suitcase of the mutant growth hormone and shoves it all into Mr. Hyde's mouth and says, he'll probably OD on that. I'm out of here. And then runs. In the meantime, he gets punched and stuff by Mr. Hyde, but he punches the case at one point. He's like, thank God that case saved. The way that was punched into him, his innards are done. But he's like,
his ribs are broken. Done. He's done. Concussion protocol.
Looks like Mr. Hyde might be dead, but probably not. Because he's Mr. Hyde.
I don't think anybody will miss him.
I will also say at points, Joe Garrison, when you get close up, he looks a little like Tom Cruise, which completely makes sense here because the way things just kind of happen, this is like mission improbable. They end up on set. The Sokovian, which I forgot to mention his name is Sergei Fedorov, Hall of Fame hockey player, Detroit Red Wing, and maybe they're punishing him here for dating / maybe marrying Anna Kournikova back in the day. He ends up grabbing a hostage, and they're at the subway platform, but they're on separate sides. There's a subway car coming, and even in this, the Sokovian's like, hey, I'm going to hold this lady here, and you're not going to do anything, and we're going to get on this subway car, and you're not going to do anything. And he's like, screw that. So the train's going between them, and he just takes a shot between the train right through the forehead. He's dead.
Yeah, but it has to be a fatal shot. He wanted to capture him alive, but it's like, I got no choice. I gotta do a headshot. That's the only way to save this lady.
He kills this guy, and that's it. That's the end.
Yeah, but it ends with like the most eye-rolling narration because he's just like, well, now that he's been punished, I'm gonna be here to be punished for the rest of time because I know I'm not gonna find who hired the killer. And it's just like, he will. Yeah, he will.
I don't care. I don't know you. This felt like I ended up where I'm at the bus station and some jerk-off thinks he's Forrest Gump and he's going to tell me his whole life story. I don't care. I don't have any connection to you. Like the guy's like, yep, and then they blew up my family and then I went and shot this guy. I'm like, I really don't care what you're saying. I have no connection with you and you're boring. And this is boring. How can a Punisher book be boring? Well, we just cracked the code. get David Propose to write it because this sucks. This sucked, and I'm not even going to say I hate to say it because I'm actually pissed off to say it because I don't think that he's a good writer in this whole deal where they just saddle him like, oh, you want to do some work? Do this crappy Punisher nobody will like. So we'll see. People give it 10 out of 10, say it's, oh man, it's so refreshing. But yeah, with all that, what would you give it?
I want to go lower than a 5. I do, but I really also want to say so I'm going to go 5.
But I'm going to give it a 4. 4 out of 10. Yeah, this is not good at all. It's basically like, what it is. They took a story already established that people liked and made it worse. There's no reason. If you're going to do this, there's no reason to not have Frank Castle in this book.
Just bring Frank Castle back.
What they should do is just leave the character be. Wait a couple years and just bring him back normal. I don't think this is going to end up making anybody happy that's a Punisher fan. You're a fudge, you 5, and I'm a 4. Hey, all you weirdos, Jim here. Just to remind everyone that this video that you just watched is a condensed version of the review that we ended up doing for this week's podcast. If you want to listen to all of our podcasts, please look in the description of this video to get links to those. And also, if you want to help us out and get tons of exclusive podcasts and videos, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/weirdScience.
You are all weirdos.